always wanted to come to the US. I always thought this was the best place in the world.
Everything is so broken here.
Well, Marco, it's so nice to meet you. I mean, this film, High Tide, I'm so lucky I got to see it. It's beautiful. But I think about this journey, it's been all over the festival circuit, and now it's going to be in theaters October 18th, and then it's going to expand beyond that. How are you feeling? Because this is a very personal project to you that I know you're really excited for the rest of the world to get to see.
It is. It's true. It's just a blessing. It's so beautiful. You know, I always say that every independent film is a miracle by itself. But this one had so many miracles behind it that it made it even more special. It's so important for many reasons. It's my first film in America. It's my first time working with my husband and partner. It's very personal in many, many themes. It's not biographical, but there's so many personal elements in the story. We're talking about immigration. We're talking about, Brazilian young man trying to find himself, trying to accept himself, trying to embrace his homosexuality. So it's just a lot, and I'm so happy. I am so happy and proud of it that I can't wait to share with everyone.
Yeah, no, it's so great. And it's funny, you talked about working with your husband, who is also Marco Calvani. This was his directorial debut. I know he also wrote it. How did you two, because it's one thing to be a couple, but then to work together is a whole different thing. And this is obviously, you're the lead in this one, and he's writing the lines and directing you. That must have been really interesting.
Yeah, it was. This actually happened. I always say that there's a love story behind the love story. And that happened when we met. I met with Marco for the first time, and we were talking a lot about coming out, about finding yourself. I have a very specific story. I've been a gay man all my life, but I was in the closet until I was 30 years old because, I was in Brazil and I wouldn't have opportunities as an actor if I was out at that time. And, so many other reasons. I became a public person when I was 18. So, my process of accepting and coming out was a whole different way, because I wasn't coming out to my friends and family. I had to come out to a whole country. So we talked a lot about this. At the first time we met, I was like, I want to talk about this through my work, through my craft as an actor. I really feel like at the time I was producing a documentary about representation, where we follow 4 queer candidates at the municipal elections in Brazil. So I was starting this movement of talking about this. And I told him, I want to talk about it through my work as an actor. And little did I know, he was writing a script about a Latino person, not necessarily Brazilian, but a Latin guy who was coming to America and to Provincetown to find himself and to discover himself. During the process, we were falling in love, and he was asking me a lot of questions, like, what were my favorite poems? What city in Brazil do you think would be like homophobic and conservative, and this and that? So after a month that we were completely in love already, and we moved in together like good lesbians very quickly, he handed me the script. And I saw there were so many personal things, everything he was asking me and we've been talking about, it was there on the script. So it became our baby. We put it under our arms and we went shopping, and we decided we had to tell that story. And
it's so interesting. So it's like you met, and then the story was already in development, but then it really, blossomed after, he got to meet you and get with you. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly how it happened. And when I read it, I was like, okay, we got to do this.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Also, you mentioned this is an indie film, but I mean, you have supporting performances from Bill Irwin, from Marisa Tomei. I mean, incredible to have people who have had such, illustrious film careers. What was it like to work with them?
It was so beautiful to work with them. It was a truly a gift. So we got this script. We were in Provincetown, and we met these amazing producers, LD Entertainment, Mickey Liddell and Pete Chalaman. Mickey had recently moved to Provincetown, and he had done big films in the past, big Broadway plays, has 5 Tonys and Oscars and everything. And they wanted to work. They wanted to do something that involved the community in Provincetown, because we were just getting there. So it was this big synchronicity where we met, and they read the script and they were like, this is what we want to do. We want to tell the stories from the heart. We want to involve the community. We want to do this. So they got in partnership with us. And so Marco and Marisa Tomei had worked before on Broadway. They were like creative partners. And when she read the script, she wanted to play the Miriam's character, which is the only female character. And then the rest of the cast came through the normal process of deciding and everything. And Bill came, and he's just the most wonderful person in the world. Both Marisa Tomei, when she gets on set, she's just like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She never repeats the take. She always brings something new, something fresh that keeps you there, alive, you know, present. And Bill, oh my God, it was so beautiful to see a man his age with all his experience to play a queer character for the first time at a screen. You know, his eyes were shining and he was curious, and he went to Provincetown before. He wanted to get to know people. He wanted to talk to people. It was just a lesson for me, you know, in terms of how beautiful it is, this career, that we're always learning. We're always discovering new things. It never gets old. You never get to do the same thing over and over again. So seeing him with all his experience, like, as a kid, you know, trying to learn and discover that universe was so beautiful. It was such a big lesson for me. And he's an amazing actor and an amazing person. And everyone, James Bland was like, I couldn't ask for a better partner. We were so together, and, you know, we had a lot of intimate scenes, and he made it so comfortable. We both wanted to tell that story so bad that it's just, you know, it just happened in a very beautiful, natural way.
No, it really shows. You obviously talked about being from Brazil, and I think about how it can be really difficult to be an LGBTQ person in Brazil. Anyone out there that's, you know, hearing your story, what would you want to say to them that might be, you know, struggling with whether coming out or just accepting themselves? Because living in places that are less affirming can be really difficult.
Really difficult. And I think this is what we wanted to talk about in the film. You know, when we talk about Brazil, people think Brazil is this super free, modern, great place, but in the end, it is the country of the highest rates of hate crimes against queer people in the world. So it is always important to remember that there are so many Lourencos all around the world that had to leave their country or their families because they couldn't be accepted, or they couldn't, you know, love whoever they loved or be whoever they wanted to be. So I think, in a way, the film talks about it and it embraces these many Lourencos that had to go through that. And, you know, when we tell a story like this, that's what we want. We want to touch people's heart. We want to give them some kind of help, some kind of comfort, some kind of, you know, showing that you can belong. There is a place for you. But first, you have to belong to yourself. Because we go through a lot of homophobia, but we forget that we have our internalized homophobia. We were raised to be homophobics. We were raised in a society that is structured in homophobia. And it's a film that it's very beautiful because Lourenco runs away from Brazil. He finds himself in Provincetown, and yet he doesn't feel like he belongs. And why? Why is that, right? Because he's searched to belong to himself. And then after you belong to yourself, you can belong to a country, to a person, to a community, to anything. So at least this was my process. I had to embrace myself as a gay man to then, you know, be open to the rest of the world. And I think this is the journey of Lourenco. That's why it's so beautiful to me and so personal.
That was so beautifully said. And I mean, that's what it's all about. It's so important that we have films like this that will connect with people. Marco, it's so nice to meet you. Congratulations. Please say congratulations to Marco, your husband, as well. Like I said, High Tide is going to be in theaters October 18th, and it's going to continue to expand. Beyond that, make sure to go check it out.